Hello. It's been a minute. So Stanford University gave me money to sit on my ass for 3 months and make silly little paintings. My sincerest apologies for milking the brand value of this crusty, dusty, musty institution. However, I've been gone from YouTube for like 8 months, so I needed something to reel the people in. Call me a hater, but look, Stanford slander is a mandatory component of our school spirit. This school sucks in quite a variety of ways. Elite, oppressive, hegemonic institution and all that, but at least they throw money at you sometimes. Hence why I'm here, living on campus for the summer, being chilling, doing literally nothing but painting all day. Earlier this year, I applied for and received this grant called the Major Grant. Basically, you just do a self-guided project over the summer related to your major. I'm an art practice major, so I was like, hey Stanford, since I don't want an internship or like real employment in the real workforce, can I just fuck around and make art on your dime? And they were like, okay bestie, I guess. The project I proposed in my application, like what they approved funding for, was completely different from what I ended up doing.
I will spend the summer creating 3 large-scale oil paintings depicting human figures and tree-like abstractions enmeshed in colorful entanglements. This is part of an ongoing series called Arborescence, a body of work that meditates on our broken relationship with the earth, one that relegates nature to a realm outside of and apart from the human, devoid of agency and animacy, an inert object to be controlled and exploited. Trees and birds and rocks and rivers are rendered mere matter, rather than beings in their own right. Through painting, I seek to visually affirm a fundamental oneness. We are the earth, not separate from it. In my compositions, the intertwined human and arboreal bodies collapse binaries between nature and culture, human and non-human, self and other, individual and collective. The work of restoring kinship with the more than human world is the work of widening our circles of compassion, beyond self, beyond family, beyond nation, to encompass the entire planet. Grounded in expansive reciprocity, interdependence, and care, arborescence seeks to make space for both grief and hope in the face of ecological crisis.
They changed my mind. It was like, you know what? I kinda don't feel like doing that actually. But the money is already in my bank account, so what are they gonna do? Ask for it back? I've been working in this little office space in this lovely abode called Harmony House, which is the headquarters for this organization called IDA, the Institute for Diversity in the Arts. It's basically where all of the hippy-dippy woke art hoes hang out, and I love it! The time has arrived for the painting reveal. I made 6 in total this summer, which is like fine, I guess, considering that each one took between 30 and 80 hours. First, I made this one. It's called Alex featuring Oak Tree. It's a painting of my friend Alex featuring an oak tree from a little stroll we went on back in the spring. I do not love how it turned out. I think it's a bit flat. Composition is kind of boring. The greens are a bit too saturated in yellow. My brushwork with the grass is like kind of whack. Not a fan, but I had fun, and that's what matters. Next, I made this one called Dear Police, He is a White Woman. It's from an old photo of my 10th grade English teacher wearing a t-shirt that says, Dear Police, I am a white woman, which is clearly true. Making this low-key gave me nostalgia for my high school, which is not something I ever thought would happen because my high school era, dark days. Painting the individual tiles and bricks on the wall may have been the most masochistic thing I've done in a while. That shit hurted. This one has a chonker of a title. It's called Date Night at the Vegan Vietnamese Restaurant in Oakland that played Chopin's Nocturne Opus 9 No. 1 on repeat, parentheses, Brian was pissed, close parentheses. I was showing some work at a gallery in Oakland, and then afterwards my boyfriend and I went to dinner at this vegan Vietnamese place. I find it so interesting that different people's ears are attuned to very different things. Like, I do not notice background music, it just blends into the surroundings. It's like white noise to me, which I know is blasphemy to some people, like my boyfriend who is a musician. So we were sitting at the table waiting for our food and he was getting agitated. It was like, bruh, they just played Nocturne 5 times in a row. And I just didn't even notice. The food ended up being kind of mid, which was no surprise because as we walked in the door, we did not see a single Asian person dining at this establishment. It's truly a Caucasian fusion experience. But while eating the food was not the greatest experience, I thoroughly enjoyed painting it. I spent like 3 whole days on just this soup alone. For the past couple years, I've been pushing myself to get looser in my brushwork because real artists are expressive and gestural and spontaneous. But lately I've been like, yes, it's valid to challenge myself, but also it's okay if I just naturally gravitate toward a more controlled, detail-oriented style. I enjoy it. It feels right to me. That's allowed! This one is called Double Rainbow. It's of my friend Mimi from last summer when I lived with her in New Hampshire making these paintings. I had a lot of fun playing with transparency and doing the rainbows. Usually I paint a la prima, which means wet on wet, like everything in one layer, because I'm too impatient to wait for something to dry and come back to it later. Like I'd rather just get closure and be done and then move on to a different section. But this time I had to premeditate my course of action. So I painted the clouds at the very beginning of the summer, and then I did all the paintings that I just showed you. So the clouds had like a solid few weeks to dry. Then I put the rainbows on top, and I made them translucent by diluting the paint with hella linseed oil. And I used a soft fluffy brush to blend the stripes together to get that hazy look. This is probably my favorite painting of the ones I did this summer. It's called Beachy Hall. It's a painting of my friend Simone outside a fruit market in San Mateo. I did this one on wood panel, and it made me realize that I like painting on panel like a million times more than canvas. It's just so smooth and nice and smooth. It is more expensive and it's a pain in the ass to prep, but I think it's worth it though, so I might fully convert, we'll see. Painting this plastic bag was surprisingly fun. Like yes, pain, but fun pain. Architecturally, structurally, geometrically, this background does not make any sense. The lines are so crooked and the angles are just whack, but I feel like the wonkiness adds character. Just don't look at it too closely. Finally, we have Staghorn Fern Encounter. My friend Miki is plant mommy supreme, so I had to put some respect on her name. I have immense admiration for those in this world who are responsible enough to keep plants alive. Painting this vegetation was on a similar level of masochism to painting those dumbass bricks and tiles. Maybe more actually. Yeah, definitely more. I severely underestimated how long this would take. Here, for example, is the difference of 1 7-hour day of painting. Yeah, this to this took 7 hours.
Bruh.
I know some people think that you shouldn't include text in a painting unless you really want to draw attention to it because that's where people's eyes will go first, but I thought this sign was funny, so I wanted to keep it. For your safety, kindly refrain from touching plants in displays. For your safety, watch your back because these plants do not play. And here is a painting that unfortunately will not be finished this summer because summer is Jover. All of these paintings follow the same general process. I started with a burnt sienna acrylic underpainting, and then I painted on top with oils. Why burnt sienna, you might ask? Well, I am a fan of allowing some of the warm tones in the first layer to peek through in the final painting. I feel like it adds a little dimensionality and oomph. I like how there's a bit of the history of the piece's creation embedded in the final product. Like it's an homage to process. But mainly I use burnt sienna because the color is just kind of yummy to my eyeballs. It's really not that deep. Since I've just been sitting on my ass all day every day, I've been listening to hella audiobooks while I paint. 54 total this summer. My favorites were Demon Copperhead, The Idiot, and What My Bones Know. Hot take alert! I did not like Pachinko, The Secret History was eh. Yellowface was kind of cringe, and A Little Life made me so goddamn mad. That book should not exist. I also listened to My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which the New York Times ranked as the #1 book of the century? Huh? This might be controversial, but I feel like the #1 book of the century should not be like painful to get through. I feel like because that list was created by critics and not like normal human beings, that maybe the selection criteria was what seems intellectual and sophisticated and not like enjoyable. Backup plan if the art thing doesn't pan out is become a booktuber. But then that requires critical thinking and like being able to articulate my opinions, so maybe not actually. So you may have been wondering, Jackie, where have you been? Or more likely, you didn't even notice my absence because you have more important things to think about in your life, or you've never even heard of me before. In which case, welcome. But basically, the reason why I dipped from social media is because I am tired. Firstly, I am physically tired. I've had long COVID for almost 2 years now. I get extreme fatigue like all the time. I'm nauseous every day. I get hella migraines. I feel like if you've never experienced fatigue before, it's kind of hard to understand. Fatigue is not the same thing as just being like extra tired from sleep deprivation. TMI, but when the fatigue gets bad, I low-key be pissing myself sometimes because I just like do not have it in me to get up to go to the bathroom. So I'm just sitting there like, ugh. Or I wither away in dehydration because I don't have the strength to pick up my water bottle. Also, I have insomnia and will sometimes just like not sleep for 48 hours straight or sleep for 3 hours a night for weeks at a time. I've tried melatonin, magnesium, doxylamine, diphenhydramine, valerian root. I've done meditation, breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation, all to no avail. I'm so envious of those people who can just get tired and close their eyes and then like go to sleep without it having to be an extreme sport. I'm just so tired and I want to sleep but I cannot. Secondly, I am emotionally tired. Kind of in my mental illness era, or more accurately, I've been in my mental illness era. Blessedly, I'm no longer #depressed, but I am extremely anxious, getting panic attacks out of the blue, you know the vibe. And my binge eating disorder, which I've had for the past 8 years, is better, but she's still lurking. Some may think I'm oversharing. I think I'm oversharing, but I feel like disability and mental illness are seen as shameful, so I'm trying to normalize it. Not the disability and mental illness, but the talking about it. I feel like binge eating disorder, for example, is particularly stigmatized, even though it is the most common eating disorder in the US. Sometimes, hypothetically, one might purchase a box of 12 protein bars and then eat them all in one sitting. Or one might consume an entire pound of nuts in a single day. Hypothetically, of course. I've come such a long way compared to when I was really in the trenches, but it is still something that unfortunately occupies too much of my brain space on a day-to-day basis. I'm also envious of those who can just eat when they're hungry and stop when they're full without it having to be mental Simone Biles up in this bitch. Thirdly, I am creatively tired. I think I put way too much pressure on myself to constantly create better paintings, do more sophisticated writing, make higher quality videos, always be producing because capitalism, which just made me not want to make anything at all. When it came to my paintings, I always felt like I had to have some kind of big brain intellectual justification for making what I make. Like each piece had to be backed up by its own dissertation.
The dichotomy between humans and nature rests upon a long tradition of Western thought. It can be traced back as far as Plato's conceptualization of a world of forms, an ideal realm characterized by abstract truth and essential reality, entirely separate from the earthly plane of physical. I believe it is this very binary that underlies and perpetuates our global ecological. Alienation of nature into a separate realm allows for the perpetuation of the hyper-capitalist status quo, with externalities displaced onto an outside environment.
Either that, or I was mining my own trauma to make art. Like, yes, catharsis is good, but it just got so exhausting, bruh. I just don't have that much juice in me. So I was like, what if, for a change, I just made silly, goofy paintings of the people I love and just have fun. I'm just gonna read off the statement I wrote for my website because it sounds a little more coherent than my rambling right now.
Embracing Joy is a series of joyful vignettes, snippets from life of people I love, places I love, memories that make me smile. My art practice has long been rooted in trauma, both personal traumas, family abuse, eating disorders, sexual assault, mental illness, as well as collective ones, racism, sexism, environmental injustice. I created painting after painting decrying anti-Asian violence, the retrenchment of women's rights, the wanton destruction of the natural world. I've written story after story about how my mother abused me, how I struggled with depression, how I felt alienated from my heritage. Creating from this place of grief and indignation was no doubt galvanizing, but it was also extremely emotionally taxing. The process of painting these pieces often became laborious and painful. Like each time I put brush to canvas, I was carving into my own flesh. Lately, I've been shifting in direction. I want to think beyond what I'm resisting, opposing, fighting against, and instead consider what I actively want to embrace. I want to make work not about what I'm running from, but what I'm moving toward. I want to turn away from no, and instead seek the yes. This migration toward the positive and affirmative, to me, constitutes a small action in a larger project of world building and envisioning liberated futures. As Ruha Benjamin writes, Remember to imagine and craft the worlds you cannot live without, just as you dismantle the ones you cannot live within. I'm interested in making paintings that capture moments of joy, while also feeling viscerally joyful to create. I want to paint joy, because there's more than enough hardship to go around. Amidst such vast suffering in the world, and with my own struggles with physical and mental illness, it has been the little pockets of joy that propel me from one day to the next. Those moments of snorting laughter or tranquil ease. Those moments of togetherness and enoughness. Those moments when my chest feels tight from my heart straining to burst against it. Joy is not frivolous. It is not unserious. It is a practice of survival. Joy is what emerges from having lost and having something to lose. Joy is what binds us together.
I've been super inspired by Ross Gay's Inciting Joy and the Book of Delights and the Book of More Delights. He writes beautifully about how joy is a powerful force that emerges from shared sorrow, serving as a precursor to solidarity and bridging us across difference. Joy is an act of resistance, something that reminds us that we belong to each other. One line he writes that I think is so delicious and delectable is, "Joy is holding each other through the falling." I also recently read and loved Adrienne Marie Brown's Pleasure Activism, where she argues that allowing ourselves to be guided by what feels good and gives us pleasure isn't frivolous or hedonistic, but is fundamental to bringing freedom and justice into our own lives and the world. So basically, I've been trying to make art that's a little less what will encapsulate my trauma and a little more what will tickle my pickle. Here are some of the first paintings I made with this theme in mind, but I made them back in May, so I didn't include them in the summer roundup.
Mimi eating half a banana in the reservoir parking lot. This is Mimi eating half a banana packed in a Tupperware container in her car in the parking lot before we went on a stroll at the reservoir near home. This reservoir is such a special place to me. It is the site of many a long walk with many friends and teachers, especially during the pandemic when there weren't many other options for socializing. And Mimi showed it to me a couple years ago. So I feel like this place is very special because it is very embedded in our relationship. Sophia and Susan after wisdom tooth removal. My friend Sophia sent me this selfie while she was tripping balls on lidocaine, and I just love it so much. She just looks so miserable, and then her mom is just so gleeful. I feel like this moment really captures the beauty of their mother-daughter relationship. It's nap time, bro. This is my boyfriend and one of his besties doing a little snuggle on his beanbag. And the background is extremely dorm room of a heterosexual man. 3 heterosexual men, actually. These fools chose to live together in a one-room triple 2 years in a row. I really enjoy this little moment because seeing straight men do physical intimacy is unfortunately a rarity in our #toxic masculinity, #heteropatriarchal society. But sometimes the homies just need a good cuddle. I have a theory that if more men cuddled with each other, many of our societal ills would be solved.
Another manifestation of this effort to listen to my own needs and desires is my choice to work smaller. I feel like there's this notion in the art world, which I fully internalized, that big paintings are more legitimate or impressive. You walk into a bougie gallery or museum and a single painting will be covering half the wall. But making work on a large scale is not only expensive AF, with all the material costs and storage and shipping, but also I think a lot of people don't realize how physically exhausting that shit is. All the standing and reaching and bending over. Some artists be using ladders and forklifts and shit. The paintings I made this summer are all 18 by 24 inches max, which is a size of canvas that allows me to sit at a desk instead of having to stand at an easel all day. Back in my prime, like before chronic illness, I could stand for like 5 hours straight, no problem. But no more! No more! So choosing to work smaller has been part of my journey of accepting and respecting the fact that I have a disability. My body has physical limitations that constrain what I can and can't do, and I shouldn't feel the need to push myself beyond my capacities in order to attain some normative, externally defined standard. I'm living my truth as a chronically tired girly. You know what's wild and wacky? I'm about to start my senior year of college. I started this YouTube channel in my senior year of high school. I'm 21 now. It's horrifying. If all goes as planned, next June I'll be graduating with a bachelor's degree with honors in art practice and a minor in philosophy and a minor in environmental justice. Soon I will have to venture out into the real world, put on my big boy pants, and try and survive capitalism, which I am not looking forward to. But on the other hand, I am very much looking forward to leaving this school. When I first got to Stanford as an itty bitty freshman, a senior told me that by the time I was a couple years in, I'd outgrow the place and be eager to get out. I was like, ain't no way. This is a magical fairy tale paradise and I love it here. Ahaha. Little did that silly girl know. Not to say I'm not immensely grateful to be here. I truly am. Having access to this quality of education and so many resources is unfortunately ridiculously far from universal. And I know that because we live in a silly, goofy society that values silly, goofy prestige, that the name of the school on my diploma is going to open a lot of doors for me in the future. These are privileges that I do not take for granted. Yes, and as previously mentioned, I am tired! Stanford's competitive grind set hustle productivity culture is a little bit toxic. The unrelenting pace of the academic environment is really not conducive to living with a disability, or even living without a disability, just living at all. Fun fact, I had to get blood work done in the spring, twice actually, and both tests showed that I have chronically elevated levels of cortisol, the fight or flight stress hormone that helps your body out in discrete situations when you're like being chased by a lion. But if your body produces it constantly, because crisis mode is 24/7, then it slowly gets destroyed. This place is literally killing me. So if the Lord answers my prayers, I'll survive this school year, and then I'll be free, and then I'll make more art. Sorry for that kind of bleak ending, but I hope you enjoyed this video, at least somewhat. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in less than 8 months, I hope. Fun, silly little fact about this air purifier, which I delude myself into believing will save me from the oil fumes I'm huffing on the daily. So a lot of grad students who are moving out will have these like estate sales. So I bought the used air purifier for $30, and the list price for a brand new one of these is $230. He did use it for a couple years, so it was kind of nasty. And I had to spend a couple hours cleaning out the grime and the little hairs stuck in it with toothpicks and Q-tips and shit. But lo and behold, when I opened her up, the filter part was still wrapped in the original plastic packaging. So for years, Mr. Sir was running air through the air purifier without actually purifying it. He was just breathing the same dirty ass air as the rest of us. So essentially, I got a brand new $230 air purifier for $30. And this man completed a mathematics PhD at Stanford University. So just remember that academic genius does not guarantee common sense. Intelligence comes in all kinds of flavors. She kinda ate with that, damn.